Hey gang, Fraser here. Welcome back to my continuing Essen preview, a video series in which I present to you about 150 or so of what I consider the most interesting or noteworthy games that are coming out at Essen this year. Now in this list I've restricted myself only to games which are available to buy at Essen and haven't seen a general release in Europe beforehand, at least to the best of my knowledge. If you're watching on PC, remember we've got a lot of games to get through, so consider increasing the speed of the video playback if you'd like to increase the speed of delivery. But without any further ado, let's get to the next game. The Exiled Siege has got me really interested. I like the story behind this is that you're criminals that have been essentially exiled by the king and told that if you can build this colony and maintain this colony, your sins will be forgiven. And you reach this land and start building this town with just ex-convicts, some poorly trained fighters, and really shabby buildings. And over a period of turns, you're going to slowly build up your town. You're going to train your people into an actual army, build impressive fortifications and actual proper living conditions, and so on and so forth, which interests me anyway. I like that. But then on top of that, the real crux of the game is that this place that you're going and colonizing has people living there already. And they're not too keen on you coming in and colonizing, obviously. So these barbarians are going to keep launching attacks at your little town and then hopefully one day large city. They're going to bring different monsters and their barbarian hordes and siege engines and things and continually pound against your town, which hopefully you'll be able to defend. And if you're able to defend it for long enough, then the king will forgive you. And I suppose probably you'll go back to the nice country you came from rather than stay in this horrible place where you keep getting attacked. I love the in-games in general, the whole idea of sieges. Playing on either side, trying to break the defenses and get in, just that one little chink in the armor that you need to get in, finding that and breaking your way through is fascinating. And on the other side, just holding back a horde just for a period of time, even if it looks like you probably won't be able to survive forever, just holding back for long enough is such an exciting and intriguing idea to me. That any game with that kind of theme is going to have me interested. The Exiled Siege seems to have this, and on top of that, you can play it either completely cooperatively, so everyone is essentially helping to build the town, train the army, hold back the hordes, or you can actually have one of the players play as the hordes and play against one or many more players as the Exiled. Fascinating. I really hope this one's good because this is the kind of game that I would just love as long as it works mechanically. Definitely hoping to get a demo of this one as soon as I get to Essen. Looking forward to it. I've always had a bit of a love-hate relationship with hidden movement games, and so I'm really hoping that The Last Friday is going to be one of those loved ones. Now, there's quite a lot going on in this game. Quite a lot of things about it have really piqued my interest. So the theme here is, it's kind of like one of those American-style slasher movies where these young, attractive people have turned up to this summer camp to be camp counselors, only it turns out everyone's dead. There's some maniac on the loose that's been escaped from an insane asylum, or he's supposed to have been dead 20 years ago or something like that. And now he's slowly going around the camp, hunting them down one by one. And so in this game, it's essentially trying to replicate like a film trilogy, a slasher trilogy, telling the story of this maniac and these kids that are getting murdered by him. So this takes place over 4 chapters. Now, the first chapter is immediately really interesting. The majority of players around the table are going to play these young, attractive people, scrabbling around the board, trying to find a key to try and get into one of these safe houses where they'll be safe, at least for a little while, from the maniac. While the maniac is hidden, the players don't know where he is on the board, and he's secretly stalking them, hunting them down, trying to kill them. Now, this of course is a complete reversal of the usual roles that you get in a hidden movement game where the majority of players are slowly trying to capture the hidden player. Now, this really interests me because normally when you play hidden movement games, the person that has the most tension, the most stress, and the most intense experience tends to be the person that's being hunted. By reversing this, you're going to give that experience to the majority of the players around the table. Now, can you imagine realizing by deduction and by game mechanics where the maniac was just 3 turns ago, and then working out that they could be right next to you, they could be one move away from getting you? I think that's really exciting and interesting, and something that's a little bit different. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out. That's the first chapter, and so you can play that and be done with it. That's the whole game if you want. But you can continue to play the game as a 4-chapter story arc, where in the second chapter, any characters that managed to get into a safe house are going to get a little bit braver and are going to team up and hunt down the maniac. Now, there's no player elimination, although there is character elimination, which I think is a really good system. So any players that were murdered by the maniac in the first chapter can come back as different characters for the second one. And in the second one, I guess it's a little bit more traditional. The players will be trying to hunt down the maniac and kill him. Now, if they don't manage to do that, then the maniac wins. But if they do manage to kill him, well, you're not done, because there's the sequel, right? The maniac's going to come back as this, as he's going to be resurrected. He's going to come back from the dead, and he's essentially going to be trying to hunt down the one character that managed to kill him, the one character that managed to capture him in the last game. And then if he manages to do that, there's a fourth round where... Sorry, if he doesn't manage to do that, there's a fourth round where the character that managed to kill him in the second chapter will try to kill him once and for all in the final chapter. So yeah, I'm really interested about this. The back and forth between hunted and hunters sounds really interesting. The theme sounds pretty groovy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this actually plays out. And yeah, I hope it's fun. The Mysterious Forest is a cooperative game based on the graphic novel series The Wormworld Saga, which I haven't read, but the art in this yellow version looks absolutely beautiful, as you'd expect from yellow. The aim of this game is to guide this character, I suppose the main character from the novels, through this enchanted forest where he's going to face some queen or something like that at the end. You do this through going through 3 phases. The first phase, you get to look at this forest. It's made up of 8 randomly chosen cards, and they'll have all sorts of perils and dangers inside them. And you get a chance to have a look at them and hopefully memorize them, because in the second phase, you're then going to use some dice rolling mechanisms to try and collect and build equipment that you'll use in the third phase as you then go through the forest, trying to overcome these obstacles and dangers in order to get through the forest and confront the queen and win the game. Looks fairly light, looks like it's a family game, but that's never stopped me enjoying a game before. Looks gorgeous also, so I'm definitely wanting to check this one out. Gilhova's The Networks is going to see its debut at Spiel this year. Kickstarter backers have already received this game, and so I've had a few plays of it already. I really do enjoy this game. It's a game about being a network executive and commissioning new television shows, trying to increase your viewership, getting the best actors to work on those shows, working out what the best advertisement strategies are for your network. As you'd expect from Gilhova, lots of interesting interconnectivity between all of these different systems. Really good, really does that theme justice. It really has this emergent storytelling aspect to it as you see you and your friends' networks kind of grow and change, and it's always fun to see what shows they're cancelling and what they're commissioning and what actors they're putting on, and why they've got a sports advertisement in the middle of this like high stakes drama and all that sort of stuff. Really, really good. Really do enjoy it. I do feel that the attempts at kind of shoehorning some interactivity into the game would kind of fall a bit flat, but aside from that, I really enjoy it. If you've not played it yet, then maybe you want to check it out this year at Spiel. I've always found Stefan Feld to be a very divisive designer. A lot of people really don't like his style of games, while others really love them. I'm certainly in the latter group. I've really enjoyed most of the games of his that I've played, and I'm really excited for the Oracle of Delphi, which is his latest game, and according to him, his most thematic, which, to be fair, it probably doesn't say a lot, but I'm not necessarily looking for great thematic immersion when I'm playing a Stefan Feld game. So in the Oracle of Delphi, the story is that Zeus has invited a mortal man up to Olympus, provided that they can complete these 12 challenges. And how you're going to do that is you're going to have your ship. So I love this idea that you have a ship and you can outfit it and equip it in certain ways, and you'll consult the Oracle by rolling 3 dice. That's consulting the Oracle. And then the results of the dice are the Oracle's reply. And these results tell you what actions you're going to be able to take in the game. That's really interesting to me. The rest of the game sounds very Feld-like, right? You're collecting different resources of different colors to offer up to different shrines around the board, and if you're able to do that, that's one of the challenges completed. Other ones are you get to slay monsters. Yes, this is a Stefan Feld game where you get to slay monsters. Of course, what's important about the monsters is their color and getting the right combination of colors to complete that challenge. I'm honestly really interested in this. I imagine that I'm really going to like it a lot. I'm interested to see how thematic it's going to be, but I can see myself enjoying it very much, even if it fails on bringing through that theme of ancient Greek legend. Yeah, really looking forward to this one. Actually, one of the ones that I'm most excited to see this year at Essen. The Perfumer. Okay, wow. Talk about weird. Talk about novel. This game is a game which heavily involves smell. Real actual smell. Apparently they have this technology they use to print smells onto the cards. I guess a little bit like the old scratch and sniff that you used to have when you were a kid. I don't know. So essentially in this game, I have really very little information about how it's actually played at the moment. But on these cards, you'll have different smells. You're going around trying to collect different smells to fulfill clients' needs. You're making different perfumes. One of the big challenges in the game is that there's a perfume made up of a couple of different smells that you have to work out literally just by smelling these cards, what it's made up of to recreate the formula. That is all I know about this game. And don't you, if you were at Essen this year, wouldn't you go to check this out? I mean, will this even work? I don't know. Fascinating. Can't wait to smell this at Essen this year. The vampire, the elf, and the Cthulhu is quite hard to say, and it is a stupid name, but it looks to be quite an interesting little card game. So the idea behind this is that you're competing with your friends you're all writing a single novel, but everyone has different ideas about how the novel should be. Maybe someone wants it to be about elves, and somebody else wants it to be a horror story, and somebody wants it to be a character-driven, and somebody else wants it to be all adventure and action all the way through. And how you actually write this novel is you go through a phase of essentially bidding on cards. So all these cards will come out, and some of them will be pages essentially from the novel. Some of them will be about elves, and some of them will be about elves, but action involving elves, and so on and so forth. All these different cards that have multiple different potential abilities and ways that you can put them into the story. And you're going to bid on them using ink, which is the currency of the game. And then, when it's your turn, after everyone's bid on cards and received cards, you can then choose to use your cards for special abilities. Some of them will let you, for instance, play a card that's already been played. Others will create more ink for you so you can bid on cards later on. And others will let you put cards into the story. And then at the end, basically, if the book looks most like the kind of book that you wanted to write, then you'll win. It looks quite interesting. I like the presentation of this one. I'm looking for a demo at Essen this year just to see how it plays. It looks like it's quite simple and fast. Interesting theme that I don't think I've seen elsewhere outside storytelling games. So yeah, I'm interested in this one definitely. In part one of this Essen preview series, I talked about a game called Gentleman's Deal, which looked a lot like Viva el Presidente, Junta Viva el Presidente, a game I really enjoyed, and that's why I was interested in Gentleman's Deal. Tiefe Taschen, which is, I'm sure, not how this game is pronounced, it looks, again, to be in a very, very similar vein, very similar mechanisms going on. This looks a little bit more streamlined than any of those other games, though. Essentially, just like those other games, you've got one player who's a corrupt politician, giving money out to other corrupt politicians, all the rest of the players, and then the rest of the players basically have to decide if they're happy with what the president or prime minister or whatever has done. If they are, then that's fine, the game will continue. If not, then that president's going to have to resign. No one will get the money, I don't think, and the next person is going to become president, essentially. But along the way, obviously, players can bribe and blackmail each other and so on and so forth. I love this type of thing. I really love negotiation games, particularly open negotiation games. Definitely wanting to check this one out. I think that a streamlined version of this type of game might even work better than one that's got a lot of different mechanisms attached onto it. So yeah, very interested in this one. Looking forward to seeing it. Silly speed dexterity games are some of my absolute favorites. They're great for fillers, they're great at the start of the night, end of the night. I absolutely love good ones, and I'm hoping Top That is going to be one. It looks very much in the same vein as Geistesblitz, where a card is flipped over in Geistesblitz, and you have to quickly work out, based on potentially many different rules, exactly which of like 6 or 7 items that's out on the table it is you have to grab, or shout, or even maybe shout the time that's depicted on the card. Really love that kind of stuff. In Top Hat, it seems to be doing the same kind of thing, where a card's going to be flipped over. Again, you've got all sorts of different strange items. But in this one, you have to basically stack all of these items that you've got. And these items, a lot of them, for instance, you have a top hat and a pipe. A lot of these things you can put inside each other, okay? And on these cards, some of the items will be in their original color, in which case, in the stack of items that you're going to build, they have to be visible. And some of them will be kind of grayed out, in which case you're going to have to hide them in the stack as you build it, which might not be as easy as you think. So you're going to have to see the card, quickly work out what you're going to have to hide, quickly work out how you're going to build this structure while hiding these things. I think it sounds really fun, really exciting. I can't wait to try it. I think if it's fun, I'll just pick it up definitely, because I love these games. I'd love to add something else that's like Geistesblitz to my collection, and I can't wait to try it out. There really isn't very much information about Treasure Lair at all, other than the theme and the publisher. The theme is that essentially a dungeon crawl, but the twist here is that rather than necessarily playing the characters that are going to go through this dungeon or what have you, you're actually, as a player, you're building a team that you think is going to have the skills and abilities and possibly equipment to get through the dungeon. I find that kind of thing interesting, you know, the kind of people management, hiring different people and things like that to conquer the dungeon. That's really all I know about the actual gameplay. There's no information about gameplay, in fact, it's just the theme. But it's also coming from AEG, who have done interesting things with card games in the past. So hopefully with that slightly interesting theme and reasonably trustworthy publisher, it'll culminate into being a good game. I'll find out when I check it out at Essen this year, though it is a bit worrying that there's not any more information available at this late stage. We'll just have to see. Turia is coming to us from R&R Games, and it's a game in which the king has a prince or princess who he needs to marry off, but obviously doesn't want to marry them off to just anyone. He wants them to be married off to someone who's really wealthy. So you want to obviously marry this prince or princess, so you're going to be part of a band of adventurers that's going out into the realm and fighting dragons and digging up gems from haunted mines and that sort of thing, hopefully trying to get back to the castle in time before anyone else to show the king how prestigious and glorious you are and how wealthy, so that you can marry his son or daughter. Now, what's interesting about this game is the way that the actions that are available to you on your turn are shown to you. There's essentially 4 towers that are on the board, and you'll be able to see 4 of their faces, and those are the faces to tell you which of the actions are available to you. So when you use one of those actions, you then rotate that tower, changing what's available for the next player, because you've changed what elevations are being shown to that player. So it's going to be really interesting. On your turn, you'll have to work out what it is you want to do with the actions that are available to you, but also consider what you're going to be leaving the next player with. I think that's a really interesting mechanism. I've seen similar kinds of things in other games, and I've really enjoyed them. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this works out. Whether it'll work in terms of an entire game, I don't know. I'm mostly interested in that mechanism, to be honest. But yeah, definitely looking out for this one. Ulm looks to be a medium-weight euro with a fascinating mechanism for how you determine what actions you're going to take on your turn. In Ulm, there is essentially a 3x3 grid of action tiles. And so these actions are things like, gain some gold, or take some cards, or move your trade boat down the Danube a little, or, the Euro-style things, take control of areas of the city, things like that. You're going to draw one of these tiles from a bag, and then pick a row or column that you want to take all of the actions that are in that row or column. So say I might take one that's got 2 income tiles on it and a card tile on it. So I will choose that row, I'll take my income twice, and I will take a card. And then I will take the tile that I took from that bag, push that into that row, knocking one of those tiles off and creating a new option for the next player. Really interesting. I hope that obviously there's very little thematic connection there, but I'm okay with that. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in a game in terms of actually choosing and changing up what actions are available to people. Obviously, when you do that, when you slide that tile in there, you've not only changed the row that you've slipped it into, but you've changed the column that that's gone into as well. It's something you might want to consider. Fascinating. I would really like to try the game out to see if it works. I can definitely see it being a bit of a gimmick. But yeah, hoping it works out, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. Unicornus Knights is coming to us from Japan Brand, and the reason it's on this list is because it's a co-op game, but I think that from what I've read, it looks like it's going to give maybe a slightly different experience than most co-op games do. In this game, you're all playing knights that are charged with protecting the princess, who has left the capital of this kingdom, and just as it was attacked by some horrible dark army. And that dark army now controls the capital, essentially. Your job is to get the princess back into that castle. The thing is, you don't control the princess. She's automated. So you've essentially got to protect her, sometimes potentially sacrifice your characters or do whatever it is that is necessary to try and clear away, hold back the forces, make sure that she's going to be able to get into that castle to fulfill her destiny and save the kingdom. There's not many games, I think, that have that idea of the automated character and trying to judge what that character is going to do and try and protect them. So I think that's got potential to be, a unique, different experience. It's a game that's in a small footprint. The board's modular, so it's going to be different each time. I love the artwork. So yeah, I'd like to see how this one plays out. A few years ago, I had the pleasure of playing Vanuatu, a lovely little Euro game where you've got a little boat and you're traveling around and exploring Vanuatu archipelago, and you're doing things like fishing and transporting tourists around and drawing lovely little shapes in the sand and fishing and maybe sometimes transporting some goods, and had a really pleasant, serene kind of feel to it. Everything you were doing was just nice and pleasant. I really enjoyed it. But this was backed up with this really actually quite potentially vicious worker placement system where to do all of these actions, you would essentially have to put your action discs on all of these different spaces that would allow your ship to move, for instance, or allowed you to trade or fish or so on and so forth. And you would essentially be able to put 2 discs down, and you could double them up on these action spaces if you wanted to. And then the next player would put 2 down, and the next player, and then it would come back to you, and you'd be able to put another 2 down, and so on and so forth. And then once everyone had put their action discs down, you could, as first player, you would be able to resolve one of your actions, provided you had the majority of discs on that space. And what that meant was that if you had the majority on, say, move, and the majority on fish and something else, then if you took the fish action, then no one else that had picked the move action was going to be able to do it because you still had majority there. Really, really good, really interesting game. I really, really enjoyed the one play I had of it. It looked okay. Visually, it looked okay. Well, there's a second edition now that it just looks stunning, like just much, much nicer production. Components have been upgraded. The art and the board looks much more vivid and bright, which I think suits the gameplay, suits the theme much more. I'm definitely really interested in looking at this. As I said, I've only played it once. I think I'd probably like to add it to my collection. I'm definitely wanting to see what this new version looks like because it's got a much bigger chance of getting in there if it looks as good as the pictures that I've seen of it. So, going to be checking out in real life in Essen this year. Villannex 2nd edition is going to be at Spiel this year. I know Japan Brand was there last year with Villannex the 1st edition, which is a really interesting little micro game. The 2nd edition is bundling in some expansions. I'm not sure exactly what they do, but at least some more cards would be interesting. The 1st edition, essentially what it was very simple to play. You would have a hand of 6 cards, and on these cards, you would have 2 different possibilities that could be used in 2 different ways. One would be to produce goods, and the other would be to give you scoring opportunities. The goods production was fairly simple, right? This one would give you 2 gold, this one would give you a hay bale, something like that. But the scoring opportunities were very interesting because it would tell you what type of good would give you points, but also where that good needed to be. So for instance, one might give you gold, but only if other people were producing that gold. So for every gold that other players were producing, you would get points. And another one might be simple and just give you, for every bale of hay that you had, you'd get 3 points, for instance. And sometimes there'd be a mixture. So you'd get 6 of these cards, you'd get rid of 2, and then you would reveal to everyone round the table the remaining 4. So now you see all of the cards that are in play, then secretly you'd get rid of 2, you would play 1 for goods production and 1 for scoring opportunities. Flip them up and see what everyone's producing, see what points everyone scores, and that was the game. Fun, quick, interesting. Looking forward to seeing what's in this 2nd edition, what the expansions add. We'll be definitely checking this one out. Virus. Okay, now this looks absolutely bizarre, really interesting. So in this game, you're essentially a team of people that are trying to get into a lab to get some antidote for some virus, all right? It's a MacGuffin, whatever. You're trying to get in and then get out with this virus. The lab is made up of tiles. It's modular, tile-based, but at the start, you don't know what it looks like. You just have the entrance tile and nothing else, okay? You then go through a period of real-time, a real-time period where you're essentially laying down tiles. You've got a certain number of actions that you can use, but while you're using those, it's action point allowance, but in real time. So you're laying down tiles, maybe setting up traps for any monsters that are inhabiting this lab that are going to come after you, maybe setting up barricades, trying to search for this antidote, and also maybe like trying to get power-ups and things like that. Now, once that real-time period is over, you'll then have some resolution. Some monsters might spawn. Monsters that are already there will move and try and tear down some of your barricades or attack you. You might have to fight them. You'll also resolve the fact that if you're in a room, you might be able to search that room. And if that room is, say, it's a scientific room, it's blue, for instance, and there's lots of blue rooms connected to it, you'll be able to search more efficiently. However, it's you that's decided what the rooms are going to look like. You actually have some of the tiles face up in front of you, and as you're playing that real-time segment, you're getting to put those tiles down. You're the one that's getting to decide the structure of the lab, which is very interesting. Obviously, there's a lot more going on than that. There's all sorts of systems that let you, for instance, have more tiles in front of you to give you more choices. You can actually have less tiles in front of you to power yourself up for certain things and events. One of the things that really got me interested in this was one of Richard Ham's run-throughs. I really suggest that if this sounds interesting to you, you have a look at that, because that'll give you a much better idea of what this game's about. You can play this cooperatively, semi-cooperatively. You can even have a villain in it controlling the monsters and things if you want. Sounds really interesting. I'm desperate to see how it actually plays, if it's fun to actually play with a big group of people. A lot of interesting stuff though. From a design standpoint, I think it's really interesting. An interesting way to blend things like real time and action point allowance and tile laying. A lot of stuff going on. It looks, from what I've seen, that it works quite well. So I'm really interested in trying it out for myself. WarQuest is coming to us from Glenn Drover, and it's his big fantasy war game full of all sorts of different fantastical races like elves and dwarves and so on and so forth in this fantastical land that he's really tried to imbue with some sort of like historical narrative. So you're coming to this realm after about 200 years of war. All of these fancy races have kind of been pushed out into the periphery, and now they're trying to take it back, trying to reunite the kingdom under their banner. A lot of the standard stuff you'd expect to see in this kind of dudes on a map game, hundreds of miniatures, all sorts of different things that you can do to recruit large armies. You can go on quests to take over certain areas of the map. One of the things that I think is really interesting about this game that I've not seen in many others is there's a real idea of like physical distance in terms of things like recruitment. So for instance, the elves live in a particular area of this world, and so if you are far away from the elves, you're unlikely to be able to get any elves in your army. It's going to be difficult for that to happen just because they live far away. I think that's really interesting. I love dudes on a map games. I love that style of game. I love fantasy. I like some of the other Glenn Drover games that I've played. This looks fantastic. I mean, it looks beautiful to look at, so I'd definitely like to get a play of this if I can. One of my favorite games of all time is War of the Ring from Ares Games. I think considering what that game is trying to achieve, it's nearly perfect. If you'd like to know more of my opinions on that game, you can click up here and see my full video review of it. Now, this year at Spiel, just a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to have my hands on the second of a trilogy of planned expansions. It's going to be right here in these hands. This new expansion sounds to be much more substantial than the previous expansion, which just added a little spice to the game, a little twists for people that have played it many, many times. A good expansion, but not one that's necessary or that even I play with every time. This new expansion, though, is going to add new armies, new units that you can field, spiders to wreak havoc across Middle-earth, Ents to hold back the darkness. It looks like it's going to open up a whole new way for stories to unfold, new strategies and tactics to be developed. Really excited about this. Really looking forward to this one. Probably the best expansion for one of my favorite games is coming out, and I'm going to have it in just a couple of weeks. I just cannot wait. But if you aren't particularly into War of the Ring, then you're probably just waiting for me to get on to the next game. So let's do that. Welcome to the Dungeon is a great little filler game that I'm still enjoying well over a year after purchasing it in many, many plays. It has elements of betting and bluffing, and there's a lot of like table talk that I really enjoy, where essentially what you're doing is you have a hero that's going to try and go through this dungeon, which you're going to seed with monsters, and they've got all sorts of equipment. And on your turn, you can look at a card and see what monster it is, and either put that monster into the dungeon, or you can take that monster and make sure they're not in the dungeon and remove a piece of equipment from the hero. That's going to keep happening until people start passing and saying that they don't think that they can take the hero through the dungeon, until one person is left. They then have to try and take that hero through the dungeon with the equipment that they have left and the monsters that are in there. And if they manage to do that, then they're halfway to winning. And if they don't, then they're halfway to being eliminated from the game. Quite a lot to actually think about when you play the game. Lots of interesting situations come up. Lots of really fun, interesting table talk. Still enjoying this game, and so I'm really excited to see this new version. It's like a standalone expansion, I think. Welcome back to the dungeon. This time with Anton Bauza's name attached to the design. This I'm just going to buy if it's even if it's basically identical to the original game with new heroes and things like that. Then I'd be happy with that. Can't wait to pick this one up. Can't wait to play it. I know I'll get it played in Germany at Essen because it's so easy in between games to bring it out. You don't even really need to play it to completion. You can just play like one round of it. It's that fun. Can't wait. Really looking forward to this one. Welcome back to the dungeon. When I Dream is an interesting little kooky little party game where one player is going to play the dreamer and has to wear a blindfold, you know, like when you dream. And the rest of the players are ostensibly trying to get the dreamer to guess a one-word clue that is on a card that's flipped over. So they'll flip over a card and then going around the table, they'll give one-word clues to get the dreamer to try and guess what the card is depicting. If they guess it right, then that's going to go into the score pile and they'll go on to the next card. They've got about 120 seconds to get as many as they can. However, these people that are trying to help the dreamer are actually assigned roles secretly. So some of them are actually trying to throw the dreamer off, get them to guess incorrectly. Now that sounds really interesting to me and really, really good fun. If you've got like two people that are trying really hard to get the dreamer to guess correctly and giving two good one-word clues, then the next person is going to have to give a clue that's they can't just say something random, right? They have to say something that's going to kind of veer the dreamer off course. So that sounds really exciting and interesting to me. It's got the potential for some really funny, interesting situations to arise from that. I like the addition of a third role as well, who is essentially trying to balance the tricksters and the good people. So if the tricksters are starting to get ahead, then that person is essentially going to switch to helping the good guys. And if the good guys are getting ahead, they're going to switch to helping the trickster to try and even out the scores. And that way they get points from doing that. Yeah, interesting, weird. It's kind of a twist on stuff that's already out there, but from what I've heard, everyone that's played it in demo form and conventions and so on says it's really, really good fun. Definitely want to try this one out, hoping it's going to be good fun. Royal Turf by Rainer Knizia is a really fun, light racehorsing game where essentially you're secretly bidding on different horses. Though players can see what horses you've bid on, they don't know how much you've bid, and you might have bid nothing on some of them. And then you're rolling a die and basically moving horses around a track. Sometimes you're trying to help them get around quickly if they're one of the horses that you want to win. Sometimes you're making them purposely move slowly based on the die rolls. Very simple, very light, really good fun. When you're playing it with a nice boisterous group, it's really great when someone screams at you for moving their horse only a little bit, which tires them out. It means they won't be able to move until the next round. It's great fun, really great fun. I really, really enjoy this game, actually. I don't own it. It's been out of print for many years. We're getting a reprint this year. It's coming out as Winner's Circle, and I'll probably be picking it up because it's just so easy. You can teach it to anyone. It's instantly understandable, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to finally being able to put this in my collection with a nice new edition. Six Nimmt is a really popular, accessible card game, and so it's probably not that surprising to see that Wolfgang Kramer is bringing out a sequel of sorts this year at Essen called X-Nimmt. This is very similar to Six Nimmt, but it seems to have shaken up the rules a little bit. Now you have 8 cards in your hand, and if you have to pick up a row of cards, you actually have to put it into a personal row of your own. It's called the X row. And the trick with that, your personal row, is that you have to put cards in ascending order. If you can't do that, then you have to start a second X row, and the negative points in that X row are all doubled. And I think that just basically continues. So you want to be able to make sure that if you do have to pick up cards, you're going to be able to play it into your X row. Sounds interesting. It doesn't sound like it's adding a lot of complexity to the game. Still seems like it's fairly accessible, and you'll still be able to play it with a wide group of people. Definitely looking to see how this one plays out. Yokohama is a Japanese game that's going to be available at the Spiel this year, and it is a heavy Euro. You don't see too many of these come out of Japan, but this one looks really interesting. So in this game, you're playing as a company owner, I think, during the 1800s in Japan, when Japan's finally opened its doors and all of these new ideas and technologies are coming in from all across the world. And what's really interesting about this game is the way that it leverages worker placement. So you essentially have 2 types of worker in this game. You've got your assistants, which you can put out in all of the different action spaces, which are kind of like similar to other worker placement games. But you can't actually take any actions with them. What they actually do is seed the board for your main worker, which is supposed to be you, I guess, the company president, to go out onto those spaces. And then you can take the action off that space, and depending on how many assistants you have on that space depends on how powerful that action is. It's a really interesting system, and of course it's peppered with some extra spice, like if you've got your person on a particular location, of course, the other player won't be able to use that action spot. You might also have to pay players if they've got assistants or their company president on spots. The places where you actually have your assistants dictate essentially where your president can move. They'll have to actually be able to walk a path through Yokohama to the next spot that you want to use where their assistants already are. Really interesting mechanism there that I'd really like to try out. It sounds really quite unique and something that is quite new. But on top of that, of course, there's loads of different mechanisms, loads of stuff to do, loads of ways to score points, and doing all sorts of different activities like getting better relationships with foreign countries, different types of technologies, increasing your standing with the church, all sorts of interesting stuff going on there. Looks fascinating. I do know TMG has got the license for this, I think, for a North American release, so I'm not sure if we'll actually see a version of it that we can get more easily, but I'm definitely going to be checking this one out this year. Wow, I can't believe it. That's it. We actually made it. Thank you so much if you're one of the people that managed to make it all the way from the first video to this one with me. Quite a journey, a huge number of games, a lot of work, but we did it. We're finally here. We've completed at least the first part of my Essen preview. So between the time that I initially made this list and the time that you're seeing this video, quite a number of games, new games will have been announced, more information will have been released. That will have in fact happen right up until the day that Essen Spiel starts. So I may, if I have the time, produce one final video that has all of these last minute additions, anything interesting from the last minute additions all snuck into one video. That could be a particularly interesting one if I have the time to do it. Not promising anything, but it would be good if I could do it. So if you want to see that, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because then you'll be notified as soon as I produce it. And if you'd like to help me produce more content that's like this, you can always support me on Patreon. Okay, that's it. Nothing to look forward to now but Essen itself. If you're going to be there, let me know in the comments below and maybe we'll be able to meet up or something like that. Looking forward to it. I am ready for my currywurst. I'm ready for Essen. I'm ready for the games. Let's do it.